Hey everyone, welcome to this EO learning event. We have here both Yusuf Mohammed from Plumis and Michael Korn from Kwickscreen. Michael Korn being a EO member here in our London chapter, and Yusuf being a partner of a EO member, your host today. So first thing I'll do an interview of the two of you. Hopefully it won't take the whole event, and then we'll open to questions for those that are viewing us. Just a reminder of confidentiality. You can express all the interesting things that we want to hear from you, because this will be kept within the EO network, as we do usually. So I think I'd like just to start to just give context to those that are watching, why I thought this would be a good event, good experience journey to share with the rest of the EO. In that I've met these two while I was doing my further education at business school, but they were doing the industrial design course at the Royal College of Art, the innovation design engineering, right? To be
That's what we changed the name to, yeah.
more accurate.
Yeah.
It was industrial design.
Do you want a video when you're talking?
No.
No? Okay. Just keep it on us. We'll look interested. It was industrial design engineering, but then when we left, they changed it to innovation design engineering.
Okay, following the whole trend of the we have to include innovation on the wedding of everything, right? Exactly. Okay, so and I think what I learned through your story is that the whole course is about solving a problem, and I'll get you to talk a bit about that, and creating a product that will solve a problem. But I guess what I'd like you even to hear is how much were you aware that this is in fact was a path to starting your own company and having to commercialize that product as part of your journey, or if it was just by accident. Yeah. So I think I'd just like to start really making this like a bit of a timeline and just understanding a bit of your background, of first hearing from the two of you why you decided to join the RCA and do an industrial design course in the first place. What was your intention? What was your intended outcome from it? Yeah.
Okay.
Michael.
It's often one can post-rationalize, which definitely the RCA taught us to do. I don't want to be doing that now. I don't want to say it was all for a reason, but to some extent it was. But you know, so my journey, my chronological journey, maybe starting at university. I studied engineering at Cambridge, which was a very rigorous academic. So prior to that, I did maths, further maths, physics, and chemistry at A level. I wasn't allowed to do design technology because I was too naughty. I wasn't allowed in the department. So there was this, you know, this pent up, I didn't know it at the time, but like I was never allowed to do anything creative, and I was academic. So here I was on this academic path. You know, the most academic thing a scientific kid could do is then study engineering at Cambridge. So that's what I did. It was hard those first 2 years. It was all very mathematical. So there was an option at Cambridge to do manufacturing engineering. So that was so I did 2 years of general engineering, which was like real brain gym. Then I did 2 years of manufacturing engineering, which is a lot more entrepreneurial business. Well, most people there went on to be management consultants or work in finance and, you know, earn lots of money very quickly. I wasn't accepted, didn't get any of those jobs. So I then, by default, somebody who was unemployed became an entrepreneur and got work myself as a consultant and ended up on some sort of graduate scheme. So here I was, somebody who had the engineering and the business understanding with, and I learned about the course on ID. I'd learned about it before, but the idea of going back to art school or going to art school and having already had a very academic qualification, you know, it was heresy for my parents. So when I applied, I did it in secret. I didn't tell them. I went home and I found my GCSE art book and I took photos of it and I traced loads of drawings so I can tell the RCA I knew how to draw. Got into art school. But what I basically realized is that whilst this is the most prestigious art school in the world, or one of them, this course was for engineers that had this pent-up creativity in them, but you know, maybe couldn't draw. and didn't know the difference between Picasso and Rembrandt, it was okay. They let me in. And for those 2 years, I learned how to be creative, and it was incredible. And I didn't know, it was a bit like the EO Johari window. It was the unknown. It was just an enormous window of unknown, because ever since primary school, I hadn't really been given the freedom to be creative. And so at the RCA, I learned to be creative, to solve problems from a blank sheet of paper. I've never had a blank sheet of paper before, always had sort of, processes to go through. Almost answering your previous question, I did have a plan, and it was that I sort of knew that I had the engineering ability, I had the business the business side of things, and if I could have the creativity side of that, and at the RCA I explored a lot of entrepreneurial endeavors, then I had the full package to go and never have to get a job and create my own company and solve problems and have the freedom and do what I wanted to do. I didn't know what that was, but I knew that by going to the RCA I would make myself unemployable and I'd have to be an entrepreneur. So and that is what happened, really.
So, and what was you said you were an entrepreneur even before joining the RCA, and what was your
first entrepreneurial endeavor was selling paper airplanes to people on the street when I was like 6.
Okay.
Then I would, me and my neighbor would drink all of the fizzy drinks in his parents' house and fill them up with orange squash and sell that. Maybe that was before. So I've always been maybe a little bit of a hustler, but I didn't get a job for these flashy consultancy companies. So I pitched myself as a consultant. So instead of applying for jobs, I phoned up companies saying, hey, you've got a factory in London. There was only about 10. I didn't want to move out of London, so I limited myself a little bit there. I can come to your factory and make it more efficient. I bet you don't have to pay me. You can pay me with results. So that was my first, route to getting paid.
And you, Yusuf?
Well, there's some elements which I definitely empathize with Michael. So I did mechanical design, materials and manufacturing engineering in Nottingham. The main reason I probably chose that course in university was because art was my favorite subject at school, but being from first generation immigrant family, basically I have engineering, to be a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant. You have to pick one of those 4, otherwise they're not credible and they can't tell their friends that you are you're going places. So I picked engineering, and the main reason I picked Nottingham was because they had a good basketball team. I played basketball there for 4 years. I loved it, and actually when I was looking for a postgraduate course, I just wanted to find somewhere else where I could keep playing basketball, because that's what I was enjoying. My career was my backup plan. It was just something I had to do to facilitate. So during that period, I found out about the course. It was a master's program. It was in London, and I went down to the open day. I walked around the show, and there were students there, and I started talking to them about their projects. And this one person was working on a concrete canvas was there. There was some, but they were solving problems that they cared passionately about. And when you talk to them, you ask them, why are you doing this? It oozed, it dripped off them. And I was like so overwhelmed that I had to leave the open day, because it was the first time that people were actually applying the knowledge that they had learned to actually do something in the world. And still today, up until that point in my career, that had never happened. It was always, you do it to pass the test or the exam, so you can tell your parents to do this, yes. Like that. But they were actually doing something, and that was amazing to me. So I worked for like a year on a portfolio. I had spent my time creatively. I was designing basketball shoes. I did a lot of these. So I just created this portfolio, managed to apply, got through, and 2 years later, ended up where we ended up. But I definitely had no aspiration to start a business, none. I had no aspiration to be particularly entrepreneurial, but what I did enjoy was the opportunity to put my energy and time and effort into something that was meaningful, because I didn't think that had just never been an option, I think, before.
So it's because I had the exact same surprise when I went to the first RCA show and even met Michael for the first time. And I was quite shocked that I even had a complaint from the entrepreneur teachers at the university saying that I just wanted to start a company with every designer there. It's just because, and I did my dissertation on it because I was so excited about it. And so we tried even to do this event today at the RCA show, of this summer's RCA show, which is unfortunately online. So there'll be no point in us doing that. Yeah.
We were at the same show.
Probably, yeah.
We were at that same show because you were. I was in a bit of a rush, so you applied and then spent a year doing your thing. I just went, you know. But yeah, Concrete Canvas. That was the year of, what is it, 2004 or something? Like, that was an incredible year. It's a real proper company, like products solving problems, and you know, shout out to Peter and I can't remember,
Will
Crawford.
Yeah,
they're still going.
Yeah. Insane.
Amazing.
All of their projects were just, it was just, still to this day, and there's an energy there. I just think it's like and for me today, entrepreneurship, all this business stuff, is a consequence of having actually a goal or reason to do something. And I think in general, I'd always struggled academically with moving beyond, but what is the actual point of this?
You ask, yeah. Well, I mean,
what's the point?
Well, for people that ask why,
yeah.
I don't know how, there are so many jobs out there that I just don't understand how people can do them, because have you asked why you're doing that?
Yeah.
Like, really, it very often comes down to very questionable things or just nothing. So yeah, the opportunity to
check at the end of the week, and I can do the thing that I actually enjoy doing.
Well, yeah, well, that's yeah.
So
anyway,
related to that, you clearly show that expressed that your passion is basketball. How much, obviously you did that, you used that for your application there of the RCA, but how much did doing the course, how was that related to your passion at all? Or how much did that create a different passion? Or how much did the course itself change you in your passion at all? And whether there was any relationship with your passion of in entering the course and after you left at all, in the business that you ended up creating? Yeah?
So I always think that you need hobbies when your life doesn't fulfill your passionate needs. So when I was doing engineering and studying, man, I was so creative in my spare time. I used to design basketball shoes online. I'd learn how to use Photoshop to do this, because the rest of the time I was just bored and uninspired. I needed it. I needed to express my creativity. Now in my work, I do so much of that. I don't have any more creative juices left to do hobbies and do other bits and pieces. So I like to dumb it down. I watch Netflix. I switch my brain off to get myself away from expressing my creativity. So it completely changed for me, I think. Yeah.
And you, Michael?
That's interesting. I like that. I'm not sure, for me that's super interesting, but I think maybe my creativity, my hobbies, my passion, it was so pent up that I didn't. So like, can you come nearer to me? I did just fart. It just drifted away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, like I think I was a sadder case than you said, because prior to the RCA, I didn't know what my hobbies were in a way. Like, I didn't know what it, you know, I didn't know how to creatively do things, solve problems. I really was a bit of a robot. And so the RCA became a bit like similar to you, right? Like, I discovered my passion there, but I stopped doing other passions. But I learned that I'm a passionate guy. Like, I learned that, like, it is actually great to be doing the thing that you're passionate about. And so now I am like driven to continue to always be doing the thing that I'm passionate about, the thing that I believe in. And it's interesting. I won't go back. I can't go back. Is, you know, the way that I feel from having this experience of being given. It's an incredible opportunity. And by the way, something that I think you feel the same with me. The opportunity to go to the RCA, to spend 2 years doing whatever you want to do, is similar for a lot of people. It might be they've gone traveling, it might be they've done an MBA, and a lot of people go to the RCA and have a very, very, very different experience to what we've had, and then end up getting a job at somewhere that or fitting a certain mold. So I made from that experience what I made from it. And it's a lot like EO. It's a gym. It's not a spa. So it was, we put in this effort, and I'm talking on your behalf because I think it's like we explored, what is this creativity? What does it mean to me? What can I learn from it? How is it going to change me? And as a result, we're different people. But other people went on that course and either didn't do that, or they explored and they found something different. So it's not a cookie cutter course that produces people like Yusuf and I, but I think we've gone on a pretty similar journey, and so it's nice that it's done this for us. But I think it's the mindset that what we took from it, the resilience, the way that the Royal College of Art Industrial Design Engineering course teaches people in a design thinking way. For me, makes such wonderful similarities with sort of entrepreneurship or creative thinking, and the ability to have an idea, get it knocked down, have another idea, get it knocked down, have another idea, get it knocked down, refine it, simplify it, make it pure. I equate it, for me, the way that people understand it as stand-up comedy. It's very different to doing engineering, where you solve the problem, that's it. Doesn't matter if I've got missing hand marks, I've solved it, get the mark, got the right answer, okay? But with creativity, I mean, this is, for me, from having never had any creative sort of educational experience, it is irrelevant how hard I've worked. It's irrelevant how good I think it is. It's irrelevant, how much I sweated over it. If it's not funny, it's not funny. So like a stand-up comedian, like get up on stage, say a joke. If it's not funny, fucking come back and do another one, yeah? Until it's funny. Don't get upset about the fact that people didn't laugh at your joke, and go find someone that does laugh at your joke. You've just got to get a funny joke that everybody finds funny. And that is what I felt I learned through the RCA, and it was a quantity creates quality process of finding solutions to problems.
So I completely agree with what you're saying, right? And I would add on top of that, I think there were two lessons for me. One was exactly that, this iterative process. So every week you'd have these crits, you come up with a solution to a problem, and then everyone would tell you why it's a crap idea in the room. Literally everyone. And then, but after the second week, you might make things improve. But what it made you do or realize was that firstly, the first try is always terrible. And you shouldn't, and actually the most valuable thing that you can get is people who can intelligently tell you things you need to fix. So therefore you end up craving the insight and being told you're wrong, as opposed to that being something that's like a problem. So that was part of it. And then the other thing is that they did, which I'm sure you'll say exactly the same, is they have this We Could Be Heroes strand, where they bring in other founders and creators and people who started companies. And most of the time you think, when you see like the iPhone or whatever, you see the finished article and you don't see the nervous, nerdy, sometimes not particularly bright, let's even say, individual behind it, or individuals who are just trying to find their way through navigating it. So it suddenly took like this aspirational business thing over there and made it feel like, oh, do you know what? That isn't miles away from your capability. So I think those two things together, that's what was so transformative, I think.
So it's curious that I think you brought that to what we do in our company, because you ask for feedback and you ask for criticism of what we do from stakeholders, from buyers, right? Whoever it is, you just ask for criticism. And even to the point that we hire consultants, right, from within the industry, to pay them to get to understand how our system works, to criticize it, right? So that we can get that feedback and improve it, right? So I think sometimes it was a bit too painful at the start, but I think I got used to this.
Yeah, it's no good asking someone, do you like it? You've got to say, how can it be better? What do you not like about it? And we just learned to, maybe it was in our nature before, but learned that is just so helpful. I was referred to, and by the way, the tutors only punched as many times as the person could take it. Some people couldn't take more than one or two criticisms, and that would be it. So they said, oh, all right, you get a pretty mediocre education then, because we're going to put all of our attention on Yusuf and Michael. And like everybody couldn't understand, because he's not that crap. So why would you keep having fun with him, right? And I'd be like, yeah, but I like it. Maybe I'm a youngest sibling. I'm used to getting beaten up or something. But they said that what I like about you, Michael, is you're like one of those I don't know if it was reference to my physique, but those balls that you hit and they bounce back up again, you know, every time I knock you come back up again, say, come on and hit me again. And like, that's the best way to learn. That's a great way for entrepreneurship. It's just a great lesson in life, really. And it makes it less personal, you know?
I also think that there's something in traditional education that is so like finite. You have your test and it's kind of done in a way. And what's so actually uplifting about that process is it's never finished. So in a way, the score you get doesn't matter. It's more about, actually, I can take the feedback, the marking of this test and utilize it. So for me, that was like, where was this during my 20, my engineering degree, I did 4 years engineering degree. Like, I don't remember hardly any of it. I don't remember, I passed the test, I could get good marks. 2 weeks later, I had no idea. I wish I paid more attention to some of those exercises, because they would actually be useful now. But I didn't realize the value. It was just, I was there to pass the test. I wasn't there to grow as an individual, learn about how to apply it or what have you. So yeah, it's frustrating that it took such a long time before I drill down on some of these insights.
So what did you learn then? What did you learn and create during the course that landed into a product and at what point did you say, okay, I want to take this forward as a business? So how was that transition from, this is a great place, we get criticized, we get thick skin, we learn, I'm being creative and getting feedback, and what point does that turned out to be a product, and that transition to say, okay, oh, this is, and how even aware were you, how intentional was it for you?
Okay, so this I think is where we might be different, because I was no accidental entrepreneur, which is what's in the brief of this thing. Like, it was sort of my plan, right? And you know, somewhere on the lines of James Dyson, you know, that was the archetype of what I wanted to be. And this course, that was it. You invent something, you patent it, global monopoly, like the world's your oyster, go for it. Like, you know, have a company, make it, sell it, make the world better. It's just wonderful. That was what I wanted to do. Real wonderful, tangible way of doing everything that I wanted to do, all in one thing, no idea how to do it. And so the other thing that I liked doing is working with other people. So that solved that problem. Does that make sense? So so I approached the course as a way of like trying to find the joke, the product, the thing that I could then make a company out of. And like I said, it was a quantity rather than quality, but the course taught me not to try and solve the problem early on, actually explore the problem. And that's what I wasn't very good at, because I very quickly, as many people do, as soon as I learned about a problem, I'd immediately have a solution. And then it wasn't very good. It wasn't a very good joke. So what the course taught me to do was actually just spend more time in that problem, experience the problem, put myself in the shoes of that person, think about some weird, completely unrelated ways to solve that problem. And then when I'm absolutely exhausted, I'm frustrated, I really want to solve it, then start solving it, because then the solutions are way richer than had I tried to solve it early on. And that was what the course forced me to do. It was very unnatural for me, but my intention was always to do something entrepreneurial, because I had seen people previously that had done that, and I was like, wow, you're only a little bit smarter than me, so I reckon I could do what you're doing, kind of thing. Like, you know, I can see myself in your shoes, and what you're doing is incredible. You've got your own company, you've got a workforce, you've got a factory, you're supplying it all over the world, you're making shelters or chicken coops or all these cool freaking things that didn't exist before this person came up with an idea in that room. So I had lots and lots and lots of ideas and tried to turn them into products, and won loads of different of these awards for different products. So actually, when I graduated, I had about 4 patented commercializable ideas, and also a design consultancy with some friends, which is the nice backup. If none of the ideas were commercially viable, at least I could help other people invent. Fortunately, anyway, so well, unfortunately, only one of them survived. But that one is Kwickscreen, and very quickly, but about after a year, I discovered that only one of my patented innovations, some of them were group projects, and were, you know, had a future, And really that was Kwickscreen. I was also working on another medical device and a paper pulp. So for a while I was the paper pulp guy. Egg boxes, how can an egg box help hospitals? I've come up with lots of different ways that egg boxes, using the manufacturing process of an egg box, can help a hospital. You can fold up urinals, you can have a urinal for women that's much more ergonomic, which is now in production by another company. And the needle safety device, but none of that. That was actually what I was I was the needle guy. I always had loads of hypodermic needles like around me and on my desk because I was obsessed with needle stick injury. So the side product that I was also working on was Kwickscreen, the retractable screens for privacy and isolating infections, isolating patients in hospitals. That actually was number 2 in my chances of product success. But I met a wonderful co-founder, as did Yusuf, this beautiful dynamic between a more experienced business person and somebody less commercially minded, and together we built Kwickscreen and grew it, and the rest is history.
Okay, so with me, so I didn't really want to be entrepreneurial, and I'm not sure I still do, to be honest. But what I recognize is it is a consequence, or it's a requirement in order to affect the change that you want to see. So actually, I started realizing, actually from you, because Michael used to win all the loads of competitions in his year group. So you get cash prizes for if you have a good idea, you enter into this competition. Michael's in the year above me. He used to win most of the awards in that year group. And I was like, man, Michael's doing something right. So and
I'm clever than him. And it was Pete Rowan that said to me from Concrete Canvas, you do this. And I said, how can I give up my job and do this? He's like, dude, I promise you, will earn more money on this course if you enter some awards because it's tax-free than you are currently doing in your job. And I was like, really? And I thought, well, I told my mum that, otherwise she would have been like, why do you want to ask for? So I had to justify going on this course. But yeah, then I told everyone.
Yeah,
I told you, Yusuf, just apply for these.
And we did. And I wonder, there's 3 or 4 different competitions, and going back to that same realization that, unlike previously where you finish the test and it's over, you can always, if you get a good idea in a design competition, it's literally something that you can use to change the world. It has intrinsic value. So it's just the opportunity to be able to invest time in something that has a vehicle to go somewhere was amazing. So, and I also think that the other thing that happens is when there's potential of places to take somewhere, so take something. So once you win that competition, well, someone gives you a little tap on the shoulder and says, you know what, ideas actually validate your idea. Why don't you try this next stage? The next stage is a business plan competition. Okay, let me find someone who helped me do that. And then once you win that competition, well, you don't actually get the prize money and ride off into the sunset. Somebody says, well, you know what? The reason you won the award is because it's a good idea. Why don't you invest some more time? And it's just literally just rolls.
And it reminds me the day I first met Yusuf, which was a competition within the Hall of Imperial, right? And which all the industrial design students won the awards and all the MBA students didn't get any of the awards. And I made the mistake of taking my wife to watch it. And she said, I told you your idea was crap. You go talk to those guys and offer to write a business plan with them. And I did. And I followed the orders. Yeah. So I pushed them and that's how we got together first time around. Yeah. Oh, yeah. By losing a competition. Yeah.
But it's interesting because it's even among the design school, the MBAs were kind of this strange type of person.
Vultures.
Yeah, in that typically the fear was that, well, because they're so savvy, they understand the value and the money side of things. You need to be wary of them because they're not dedicated to solving the problem, and they understand the contracts and the legals and what have you. But I think once you kind of get over that and you appreciate that there's a whole nother side in order to make a product work, you have to kind of find someone who can provide those skills in order to exploit something.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, that was the biggest thing that set me apart from other people at the Royal College of Art, especially on our, well, maybe especially or not especially, but on our course. It amazed me how the sort of the arrogant or the conceitedness that people had with regards business people, like sharks, like you would be considered a shark. Fuck's sake, you know? And it was just, I mean, like, you know, so I think it was the humility or whatever that we recognized that, wow, to do this huge ambition, no way can we do it from, you know, with our pencils and coloring in. Like, definitely there is a lot more. There's this thing called marketing and selling, and that doesn't just happen. And it's all part of the loop as well. Like, what I learned from user-centered design, user feedback, is that you don't just listen to someone, come up with a solution, and that's it. It's a constant process, and people don't just buy it because you've got something better. It needs to be sold, it needs to be marketed, it needs to be produced. Oh, there's so much that I couldn't do. And so the opportunity to work with people in the, with people in the MBA, and I did, I eventually found someone, joined up with someone who had an MBA, like, it was just amazing. But the thing that amazed me was how unimaginative everybody on the MBA course was. It's like, you guys have got all the skills, you just got no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
So we were gold dust. Like, they desperately needed us. They're working so hard on their crappy jokes. Yeah. But it doesn't matter how hard you work. If your joke is bad, it's never going to be funny. Yeah. So like we work hard on getting a good joke, but then that doesn't get you there. So I love that. I love different people with different skills coming together to solve a common purpose. I mean, that is one of my definitions of entrepreneurship. And so the relationship between the business school and the art school was just brilliant for me.
Yeah, I think you touched on something there. I always think that there's this idea for the inventor that it's like, well, it's my idea, right? I keep it secret because someone's going to steal it and they're going to take the money away. When I actually think it's completely the opposite. If you want your idea to succeed, then you need to expose it to as many people as possible. And you need to get their feedback. They can tell you things that you didn't understand or you didn't appreciate. And it's never really the first idea which has the value. It's generally, it's the idea after the idea after the idea. You generally don't know enough about a problem in order to come up with a really good solution just by like, I'm just sat here on my couch. Oh, that's it. I just don't think it works like that. So it takes a while to kind of get over that. I think the other thing, even just going back to business people, is that there's loads of different breeds. And I think I think part of the reason that we work really well together is you're an engineer in your background. You have some of the same values and ideals that I have, but you just have your eyes focused on a slightly different target, but you kind of speak the same language. So I think in looking for a partner or a complementary piece, as long as you have the same ethos with those individuals, it just adds a ridiculous amount of value if there's somebody who can kind of complement or just tends to prefer some of the things that you know.
We're all parents, so it's like being a single parent or having a partner. Like, you both got the same goal, but you approach it in different ways. There's an element of that.
Yeah,
I think.
So you clearly had a different experience you already wanted to start as an entrepreneur. I guess I put you into the trap there. Yeah.
I pushed him.
Yeah. Well, I also pushed him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm
pushed him into your trap.
Even the experience even of starting the business and has been quite different because in our history we have taken several rounds of investment. You have managed to do this without taking investment. How did you go to that journey? How much were you approached? How were you suggested to take investment?
It's probably a chicken and egg.
Yeah. And how do you see that you managed to do this and get to the position where you are today without having taken investment?
Yeah.
And whether you, Yusuf, think we could have reached this where we are without having taken investment, what route would that have been? Yeah.
Really, I always like toying in my head with the idea of, if we swap, I'm thinking about, different people, different businesses. What would it be like if I had invented the Michael and Plumis and you had invented Kwickscreen? What would those businesses look like? what would it look like if EasyJet was running the NHS? What would it look like if McDonald's had IKEA? Like, I love that sort of that mind game. So I don't think that it's predetermined, yet I do think that, so half of it is me and my business partner and the decisions that we made, but the other half is the actual product, this problem, the marketplace we were in, and the investor appetite. So, we didn't have lots of investors knocking out. I did actually for other products, but I was like, don't invest in this, it's rubbish. So that was one reason I didn't take it. Maybe I should have, I was naive. Yeah, I'll take your money and then go. No, like, so the people offering investment for stick safe, for instance, but I didn't see that. It wouldn't have made any sense really, because I couldn't see commercial viability for it. Whereas I could see commercial viability for Kwickscreen. I could see that I could progress it. We could progress it on our own, and thus we could add a lot more value, a lot on our own without needing external investment. And it wasn't like it's got to be now or never. If anything, we were way too early for the market. 10 years too early for a global pandemic. So we got the product right, sort of, and the factory right just in time to respond to that. But the market's not even ready for the main ambition, which is to replace hospital curtains. Like, that was a problem 10 years ago. I still think, maybe in the next few years, the NHS is really going to consider replacing all of its disposable plastic curtains. So had I got investment 10 years ago, I would have been way ahead of the curve. The timing would have been completely wrong. And there was a lot of learning that was needed. So I felt like as soon as I took investment, the clock starts ticking. And if I don't hit those milestones, and it was such a difficult challenge that we had, because there were so many different things that I needed to do to get this product to the stage that it needed to be at and to sell it into the NHS, that we just felt, let's maintain the freedom, let's learn organically, let's grow it. Let's not have someone else on our back making it even more complicated. We had manufacturing, a core material technology that we had to make ourselves and no one else could make, and NHS as a customer, which is not one customer, it's like 1,000 customers, all of them conflicting with what they're saying. Like, that was a huge headache of a business to try and set up from the ground. We didn't also need investors telling us what to do. If we could survive on our own, we could learn. We'd be poor, but we would be learning, and we could survive being poor, and we would learn just as much, if not more, than if we had to report to investors and do what we told them we were going to do. So we were at the knife edge of it, and there's a lot that I take from that, and it's a wonderful situation to be in, where we're still 100% privately owned. But we were able to do that. This was a product that we could make and sell off our own cash flow, a bit of prize money. And grow it organically. Like, that was very lucky. Wasn't the case with the other innovations that I had. They needed a lot of money up front to set up the manufacturing facility and things like that. So it was a high margin, low volume product where there was an appetite for some early adopters. So we just dived straight in.
So I think it's quite hard to imagine a different scenario beyond the one that we took, because it almost felt like, I always think timing is so important when it comes to the entrepreneurial journey. If we would have took a lot of money early on, then maybe the market wasn't ready. It takes time for people to come around to new ideas, but what I would say is that the route that we did take gave us a runway and a framework whereby myself, William, the other co-founder at the time, Alan, could work on a project together with, I'd say, relatively low stress, and just advance it forward. So if we hadn't taken investment, I'm not sure there would have been a vehicle to hold us together in order to do that for as long as we did. So I would say that is the major thing, but there's so many other factors on whether the market's ready for the product, whether we've tested it enough, to know whether another route would have produced a different outcome.
Okay, now that we've heard about your story of how you started the business, what would you say is has been your proudest moment in this journey so far?
Okay. Well, for me, maybe it's easy. So I'll go first. He's counting me. Just such a proud man here. You can see him. Just point the camera towards all to get reward. You know, you stop playing basketball, but you're shooting all the good pointers. Just constant. All right, so for me, proudest, it has to be the response that we took, the gamble that we took in responding to COVID. So, I mean, one might look back now and go, okay, so for 12 years, you were developing a product that prevents the spread of hospital-acquired infections in hospitals, for infections like MRSA, airborne viruses, and along comes a pandemic. And so, yes, the business, you know, transforms itself. But actually, in the moment, that wasn't an easy and obvious decision to make. And we put everything into that. So all the resources of the company, we completely emptied the bank, we emptied the factory, we spilled out onto the forecourt here, into the car park. We hired, we quadrupled the workforce, and we just did everything audaciously that we could think of, such that we could stockpile and make enough screens that would at least service the NHS demand when COVID came. And we started a month before lockdown. We could see this coming, or at least we gambled that there was going to be a huge demand for our products to, in some way, help with the NHS response to COVID. We didn't know specifically how we were going to help, but we just knew that there were so many different ways that this unique, multifunctional, hygienic, flexible divider would help healthcare, that we just have to make as many as we can. And sure enough, we needed to do that. So I was amazingly proud to see that this team that I had been telling, we've been talking about this company being a big, ambitious company, like, you know, a dream, and then comes the opportunity to actually be it. So it's a bit like being a surfer, saying, yeah, I'm a big wave surfer, I'm a big wave surfer, and then, fuck, there's a massive wave. Shit, I guess we have to swim out now. Been talking about it for long enough. And so the proudest moment was sort of watching the team surf that wave. Yeah, like from here, looking out that window, seeing a massive production line, and I did very often, you know, this time a year and a half ago, just stand here and just think, oh my God, I can't believe this is actually happening. I actually have a production line producing product, lorries turning up, planes coming from China, because we couldn't get things on a boat, we had to fly things in, and it all just about came together such that we could make in 1 month what we had made the previous year over the whole year. Like, it's just inconceivable to think that we would be able to do that, but we did. So the feeling of pride was pretty immense then.
And how much do you think that it, as you say, the part of the timing that you had to go through you had spent the 12 years of hard work prior to that, even building credibility, building a supply chain, building some relationship with the procurement of the NHS, which I guess is not the simplest thing ever, right? So
yeah, I mean, I almost, it's daft to say, I almost wouldn't do anything differently, other than the fact that a lot of those 12 years I was searching, and maybe I did a very bad job, for product market fit. The theory was, this is a pretty niche product in healthcare. Yeah. Maybe it's needed in offices, maybe it's needed in schools, maybe it's needed in airports, maybe it's needed here. That bit, maybe I wouldn't do, because product market fit, I mean, it was the initial application, the thing that fortunately we were selling for the past 10 years, 12 years, was into healthcare. And yes, you're absolutely right. We were spread our efforts across, well, supplying product, learning about the product to make the product better, setting up a manufacturing process so that we could make the product, trying to scale that manufacturing process, trying to simplify the product so it was better quality, so it could do it better, so it could do more things. We had just about had a range of products. And these things we were in a rush for 12 years to get to the stage that we were at, such that we had just about the secure enough supply chain, the manufacturing facility that we could scale, the quality of a product that we could supply in huge volumes and be comfortable with, all these things, and the relationships with customers. We didn't get one big order, we got hundreds. Everybody that we've sold to over the past 10 years came back in 1 month and said, we want more. Like, that is what happened. So almost I wouldn't do anything differently. And something that we were doing, the EO reinforced the value of, was envisioning the future that we wanted. even though we didn't know how we were going to get there. And it meant that, you know, I'd been talking and dreaming about this wave such that, and riding it such that when it turned up, we were like, okay, well, I guess we've got the surfboard now. Let's go. We've practiced this. Let's go and do it. So, yeah.
Very nice.
So I think initially when I was thinking about what I felt most proud about, you know, so I remember when we found out we first saved the first life with the product. That was always unbelievable. It's great to see that the product's working the way it should, but I don't think that was probably the most proud of being around the company. I think the thing I've enjoyed the most is seeing people's behavior change around the problem, because I think at the core of an idea for a new product or an organization is the idea that you can do something better and you can solve a problem in a slightly different way. And today, 12 years later, like water mist as an idea for addressing fire is much more prevalent. I'm not the only one who's contributing to that. There's like so many other stakeholders and what have you. But there's an idea that there's alternative solutions are viable, and there's an idea that the existing technology isn't good enough. And for me, that being out there in the world is like amazing. And I would, and that's what I think ultimately that's what I want more, you know, not finished on that. That's what I want. I want people to say fire safety devices in general could be better. And that's why I get up in the morning.
And probably the question I should have asked before the protest is, what was you think has been your biggest struggle during this whole journey? What was even the moment you thought maybe we shouldn't be doing this and we should pack up and go instead?
Yeah. Staying alive. And that wasn't easy, you know, because we didn't have an investor, we didn't have any money pot. And we had some struggles. We had legal battles. You know, obviously we were in the right. We won. We had, I mean, it's just, you know, all the problems that people have in a relatively complicated business. I mean, there wasn't a ready market, there wasn't a ready product, there wasn't a ready anything. So we had to spin all of these plates. So, and we had to have the resilience to keep doing that for 12 years. So the best thing that we did is, the first thing and the hardest thing was to keep this company alive and going and maintain that self-belief that we can solve this problem and we're doing the right thing to keep doing it. And, you know, now that's validated. You know, I don't necessarily feel any stronger now than I did, but now everyone else thinks I'm doing something sensible. Screens that are see-through. You can see through them. I mean, I've been told that for 12 years. People don't say that anymore. So that's good. I understand that, you know, to stop me spitting on Yusuf, it is helpful to have a see-through screen there. And, you know, maybe this, like, so just to that, the balance of the flexibility that we needed, but also the rigidity of clarity that we're doing the right thing, and this is what the world needs, despite actually everything else saying almost, you know, it wasn't a financially viable business really for a long time. So yeah, that was hard.
For me, I think it's getting comfortable in doing it was probably the hardest thing. Like, I think I always thought that you could ask someone else like how to solve the problem in a way. I always thought, okay, well, if I go and find the most eminent technical experts in the world, they would give you some solid advice about this is what you should do, that's what you should do. But then you come to realize that it's just an opinion, first and foremost. And secondly, they don't it's not necessarily the right one. So I think I always assume that I always give people more credit than sometimes due. So it took a long time to actually get the confidence to just say, you know what, I don't think you know what you're talking about. And actually we need to go this particular route because I've spoken to that person, I've spoken to this person, I've kind of come to a conclusion. And I think with the entrepreneurial journey in general, for me anyway, it was hard to get comfortable just you know, that you can do this in a way. It's like it always felt a little bit alien, and that it was something that other people do. Like, I don't know.
But now,
you know, make do.
12 years, you're pretty successful.
Yeah, we're
You
plugging
call yourself an
along.
entrepreneur now.
We're
You do
plugging
it?
along. Yeah, of course, of course.
I mean, it's like engineers.
I
So
like
many
that.
people call themselves an engineer. Like anyone can call himself an engineer. All these people are an engineer.
I don't know.
But
I
you are an
like that.
entrepreneur. Like you don't
Yeah.
need you.
But I think in a way, I feel like that doubt is part of
helpful.
my, it's
Okay,
part of
fine.
my, it's part of what, you know, it's
Right.
like, oh, should this be right? Like I always
Okay.
refer back to that. So I always want a bit of that, but I
Yeah.
always think it's a fine line as well.
Okay, promise this is going to be the last question because we're going way beyond time. Yeah.
Oh,
So
editing job. That's the hard work.
yeah, exactly. So you said that you were at the show and you were seeing these guys with these businesses. They're set up amazing. That's where you imagine one day you're being. We're now in industrial state. We both have our businesses here, right? You are that guy that you saw 12 years ago, 11 years ago. How many years ago that was?
15.
What would you tell your version of yourself back then if you were visiting?
Well, what did I say when I was when we visited the course as those visiting in VIP X industry? You know, like it was amazing. Like we were in some pretty esteemed community when we went and visited the course. When we were on the course, James Dyson would have been in that group. He never turned up this time. But anyway, like, yeah, so we did. We went back and we met the students virtually and we asked them questions. And I was talking to them as if they were me, which is not right, actually, because a lot of them are not, most of them are not on that same journey. So I was actually aware that that's, you know, in a way it's inappropriate. But if one of them was me, it was pretty simple. I just asked why, you know, like, why are you doing that? And why is that important? And why is that important? And I think that the ability to really understand the problem and know why this solution solves that problem. And if you've got that, then there's a real nugget of essence there. And for me, the thing that I value, if it's going to be a product that goes on to be an entrepreneurial journey and make a difference, is that is like, why? Boom, answer that question. Why is that important? Boom, because I've answered that. Why is that important? Boom, because I've answered that. Could have been any of those 10 things. I chose that one because I thought about the other 9 and that's the best one, so that's why it's that, you know. And that clarity, which is a bit like, you know, why is that a good joke, you know, is what I would choose to value the outcome of the course if one wants to go onto an entrepreneurial journey. I think, you know, Plumis, Kwickscreen, you know, these other companies that I revere had that answer absolutely nailed. They, you know, why mist is better than water, you know, why these come out of a tap. but you know, at least you had an answer, you know, like, and it's when a student can answer back with clarity and defensiveness why they've chosen what they're doing, it's very impressive.
So what I generally tell people to do is well, I say they should follow, firstly, they should follow their curiosity. Like I think there's like an itch. People generally have an itch in life about like, oh, I enjoy doing this, or like you need to follow that. Like I just think that if you would have told me I would be running a fire safety company like 15, I'd say you're mad. There's no way I'd go anywhere near fire safety, technology, forget it. But the project was interesting, and I talked to this person and it was kind of interesting. And then there was a kind of a competition here, and of all the different things in my life, that was the most interesting. And it just literally bounced from one of those situations to another. And because it's my curiosity, it doesn't feel unnatural, and it doesn't feel as much like hard work as if I was going in other directions. So if there is anything that makes you remotely just like the hairs on the back of your end, or you just follow that.
The what on the back of
Got a long time. Arduous.
Well, guys, thank you very much. This has been really amazing. As EO hosts like to say, lots of takeaways, right?
No, we're going to actually go to the restaurant.
Yes, exactly.
Don't worry.
And we'll also do a factory tour, which we'll record and then include factory tours. There are 2 factories here. one beside the other, and we'll record that and include it on the recorded version of this event. So thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much, Yusuf.
Thank you
And
for
thank you
watching.
for the
Thank you,
attendees.
everyone in the audience.